This conference will now be recorded.
Awesome, thank you. Well, welcome everybody to the December 2nd meeting of the South Whitehall Township Board of Commissioners. To start things off, we're going to first do a roll call of all the commissioners present. Renee, would you please do a roll call?
Commissioner Walk,
Here.
Commissioner Mobilio,
Here.
Commissioner Kelly,
Here.
Commissioner Stetton,
Here.
and Commissioner Morgan.
Tori, I
think
think you are muted. Yep.
Yep, I'm unmuted. I'm here. Yep, somebody must have done a mass mute there. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
You guys can hear me? Okay, great. Thank you. All right, I'd ask before we get things started, if everybody would please rise and join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. I'd like to note that all public sessions of the South Whitehall Township Board of Commissioners are electronically recorded, filed, and posted on board docs for the public's access. With that being said, we're going to move right into our agenda for this evening. And first on our agenda for consideration and possible approval are our November 18th, 2020 Board of Commissioner meeting minutes. I'll open up to the board for any questions or comments on the November 18th meeting minutes.
Commissioner Morgan, I did have an addition on the top of page 7 or bottom of page 6. The second paragraph talked about using the funds from Weir's Dam for the grant initiative. I know that we discussed as a board at length not using that board, and I believe the full board was in agreement with that. So I would move that we would amend that to include that discussion.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just reading through it here. Hold on. So, so basically just a statement from, we can go back to the recording, but just a statement saying that we agreed that we would not use the $150,000 set aside for Weir's Dam. I guess we just have to go back and use the same language that was in the recording. I don't have a problem with. Does the rest of the board, you good with that?
I'm opposed to making any changes to the minutes, regardless.
Joe Sutton, Commissioner Sutton, do you have a comment or thought? You're on mute.
Can someone unmute him? There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I'm not sure exactly what
You're on mute, Joe. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Can I be heard?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I'm not sure what Commissioner Kelly was mentioning in terms of changes. Can you repeat what it was? But
Sure, I can repeat the discussion about. Can you hear me now? Joe, can you hear me?
Commissioner Seton, can you hear the conversation or no? No, it doesn't sound like he can hear.
Can't hear.
Diane, do you want to try again, see if he can hear you?
Commissioner Sutton, can you hear me? Doesn't look like it.
My suggestion is if there's a question on this particular, we can go back. Why don't we just table these minutes for now and then come back to them at the next meeting?
That's fine, I make a motion to table the minutes.
So Matt, are you comfortable with that? Mike, Joe, to table it, to get some questions answered for the next meeting?
Sure.
Yes.
Joe, can you hear us? If you can, just give us, we can't hear you, Joe, you're muted. So you just give us a thumbs up for tabling. We're not, yeah, he got a thumbs up for tabling. Commissioner Walker, are you okay to table until we get some questions answered?
Yes.
I believe we
All right,
need
very good.
to table them.
No, we don't need to table it. We just would table it for the next meeting. All right. So we'll just table those meeting minutes until the next meeting, get some questions answered, get the questions answered that Commissioner Seton had as well. We can have a chance to go back to the recording. All right, that being said, we'll move right to our next item on the agenda, which is presentations. We have our second reading of the 2021 budget. Renee, would you like to kick this off and then hand things over to Scott? I'll let you start. Renee, you're on mute. Renee, can you hear me? We are just not doing good tonight with audio. There's somebody's coming. Randy's coming on.
Commissioner Morgan, can you hear me okay?
I can, Randy. Yep.
Okay, so I will do my best to fill in for Renee to introduce Scott here. But this is the official second reading of the proposed 2021 budget. We recently had our first reading of the budget as required by First Class Township Code on November 18th. The second reading of the budget would then be advertised tomorrow morning, which we would then bring back for the final reading and possible adoption at the December meeting, the next December meeting. I apologize. So with that, I will turn it over to Scott. I'm sure it will be a very similar presentation to the first reading, but Scott, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Randy. I will present my screen. Oh, we have it here. Okay.
I got it here, Scott. You see
Perfect. Thank you. Yep.
it? You got it.
For the second reading of the South Whitehall Township 2021 budget, in our general fund, we have revenues, property tax, $6,859,581. Transfer tax, $650,000. Local services tax, $675,000. Earned income tax, $3.3 million. Business privilege tax, $2,145,000. Admissions tax, $800,000. Our cable TV, $325,000. Licenses, permits, and fees, $479,480. Interest, $8,500. Grants and gifts, $254,684, with a deduction for discounts and miscellaneous charges of $152,843. Total revenue in the general fund is budgeted at $15,344,402. In terms of expenses for the general fund, administration, is at $6,418,325. The police, $5,708,228. Public Works, $3,525,820. In Parks and Recreation, $322,930 for total expenses of $15,975,303. Our revenue less expense is a negative $630,901. Our estimated cash carry forward as of January 1st, 2021 is $3,189,790 with $506,500 cash outlay for debt and $1,549,218, leaving a budgeted unappropriated reserve of $503,171. In our capital fund, in terms of revenues, we have $539,700 in grants and gifts, and that is our amount for total revenue. In expenses for the capital fund, for the police, we have $212,063. For Public Works, $1,385,455. $411,400 for Parks and Recreation, with total expenses in the capital fund of $2,008,918. Our revenue less expense in the capital fund is a negative $1,469,218. Our estimated cash carry forward as of January 1st, 2021 is $9,700. Our transfers in for the capital fund equal $1,469,218, leaving us a budgeted unappropriated reserve of $9,700. Our next fund is the State Highway Aid Fund. The State Highway Aid Fund has grants and gifts in terms of revenue for $657,071, which is our total revenue amount as well. For expenses, we have $350,000 in administration and $588,229 in Public Works expenses. Total expenses in the State Highway Aid Fund equal $938,229. Our revenue less expense in the State Highway Aid Fund is equal to negative $281,158, with a estimated cash carry forward of $304,299 at January 1st, leaving us with a total budgeted unappropriated reserve of $23,141. In the refuse fund, for revenues, we have grants and gifts at $118,000. We have billed fees in the amount of $2,758,800, with discounts and collection charges and miscellaneous charges of negative $2,100, equating to total revenues of $2,874,700. For expenses in the refuse fund, we have administration at $2,708,487, which is our total expense amount for the refuse fund. Our revenue less expense is $166,213, with an estimated cash carry forward at January 1st, 2021 of $612,482, leaving us a budgeted unappropriated reserve of $778,695. In the water fund, revenues include billed fees at $4,226,900 and fines, discounts, collection charges, and miscellaneous at $38,500, giving us total revenues of $4,265,400. Expenses for the water fund include administration at $3,132,375 and capital investment in our water system at $1,234,400, giving us an amount of $4,366,775 for total expenses. Our revenue less expense in the water fund is $101,375 with an estimated cash carry forward at January 1st, 2021 of $1,420,581. In the water fund, we have $166,500 for a cash outlay for debt and transfers out of $10,000, leaving us a budgeted unappropriated reserve of $1,142,706. In the sewer fund, we have $10,500 budgeted revenue for licenses, permits, and fees. We have $500 of revenue for work on property revenue, $3,196,000 for billed fees, and for fines, discounts, and collection charges and miscellaneous, we have $321,000, leaving us with total revenue of $3,528,000. Sewer fund expenses include administration at $2,614,209 and our capital investment in our sewer system at $1,042,500 with total expenses of $3,656,709. Our revenue less expense in the sewer fund is $128,709 with an estimated cash carry forward of $3,680,731 and a $10,000 transfer, leaving us a budgeted unappropriated reserve of $3,562,022. In our fiscal stability fund, our estimated cash carry forward for January 1st, 2021 is $2,271,884 with a transfer in of $50,000, leaving us a total budgeted unappropriated reserve of $2,321,884. Our EMA/EMS fund includes expenses of $30,000 in administration, which is our total expense amount. Our revenue minus expenses is negative $30,000 with a transfer in of $30,000, leaving us a net zero budgeted unappropriated reserve. Lastly, in the fire fund, we have revenues in the form of fire tax revenue at $1,110,297, which is our total revenue amount. We also have in expenses for the volunteer fire companies $1,106,997,000, leaving us total revenues minus expenses of $3,300 and an estimated cash carry forward of $602,072 at January 1st, 2021, with a budgeted unappropriated reserve left over of $605,372. This concludes the second reading of the budget.
Thank you, Scott.
Can we just, Lori, can we just have whoever's not speaking currently, can they just mute their mic?
Yeah, if you're not speaking, if you could mute your mic.
I think it's caller 9.
All right, great. Thanks, Randy, for the mute. Renee, I know you've got access again. We couldn't hear you to do an opening for the budget. Did you have anything you wanted to add to the presentation Scott made?
Can you hear me?
We sure can.
Yeah, I was just going to introduce the budget. This is a culmination of work that the department heads have done along with myself, the finance team. We did meet in 4 budget workshops. And so again, this is a summary of everything that was discussed and presented at those workshops. So, again, I thank our team, our finance, for putting together a budget that is a very good budget for the residents with no proposed tax increases, given the challenging year that we've had with COVID.
Very good. Thanks, Renee. And I echo those comments. The same thing that we said at the last meeting. As a community, I think we're very fortunate to to be able to propose a no tax increase for 2021 under the challenging times we've been in, and with no reduction in services, and maintaining our staff at the level we have as well. So great job by staff. We couldn't do it without all of you, so good job. Is there any questions or comments from the board on the budget?
Yeah, Tori, I just wanted to echo what you said, and that is that, I mean, the majority of this board was sworn in or seated, early this year, late last year. We had no idea what was coming. Within a few months of us becoming commissioners, we faced this pandemic. I don't think any of us, myself included, thought that we could somehow make it through this year, being not only having a balanced budget, but a surplus at the end of the year. I mean, we talked all throughout the summer. I think Commissioner Kelly had proposed just keeping an eye on spending. We all voted in favor of that. I think we all were very concerned about what the end of the year would look like. And I just have to give all the credit to the staff who somehow managed to see the light at the end of the tunnel and make this all happen. So I think everyone in the township owes the staff a great deal of gratitude as to what they did to make sure that we weather the storm this year. And I have no doubt that they'll do just as great of a job next year. So congratulations to the citizens, and thank you to the staff.
Well said. Well said. Thank you, Commissioner Mobilio. Any other questions or comments from the board?
I would echo the same. I thank the finance team and management and township manager for putting this all together and presenting. I just have one question, and I, as a new commissioner, don't know if this is the appropriate time or wait till the next reading, but as I've been thinking about this, I know we talked about the revenue for admissions and just the unknown of the coming year with the COVID cases rising now, and restrictions. I think we all had hoped that they would be maybe lifted or at least staying steady, but it seems like it's trending the other way. I just wonder the wisdom of putting our admissions at the level that they're at when, and not put it maybe more in line or a little bit higher than what we received this year, just to err on the side of conservative numbers. And my thinking there is, if we do have a similar year next year, revenue-wise with admissions, we would be in a neutral place instead of worrying about a decrease in the budget for that particular line item. If it swings the other way and we open back up and things begin to turn back to more of what we hope for and long for, then we would have an extra line item there, and that would be a wonderful thing. So those are just the only thing that I have been mulling over for the last week or so since we've been presented with this first reading.
So I'll just comment on that. Although I appreciate your concerns and being conservative on that one. I know there was a lot of thought and energy certainly put into that proposed number. So I would really defer to staff on and Renee on that value and that number. I'm comfortable with the way it stands. I know that they put a lot of time and energy into determining what that number potentially could be. I feel comfortable leaving it at what it is, but I'll defer to the rest of the board and staff on that one. I think that's the way to go.
This number was developed with a lot of conversation, with Dorney Park. And so again, I'm comfortable with that number in the hopes. I also know that we budgeted a much higher amount this year and we're able to hold expenses. So again, I think that we go into 2021 with our prepared budget, but also, again, very mindful of the situation that this country and nation is in. And so, again, I think we're at a good number at this point, based on the information that we have been provided and the discussion that we've had. So.
Well, thank you for that, Mike. Like I said, I know that this year our revenue for that line item was in the neighborhood of 156,000. So if for some reason it would be a similar year next year, that'd be a $650,000 revenue loss for us. And it is, as I said, I always like to err on the side of going on the low side, and if we end up with more revenue, then and that's a better situation for us as a township. But those are just my thoughts. I'll defer to the rest of the board.
So I have a comment. I would say, in principle, I understand what Commissioner Kelly is saying. I think she's, saying we should be prudent and possibly conservative in this case by putting in the lower number closer to the Dorney Park revenue in 2020. I would concur with that. If other commissioners would support it, I would support it as well. I guess a related question is, yes, thank you to staff very much for containing costs during 2020. I imagine that in going through the process in 2020, you reduced some costs and kept some costs in there. If it turned out that Commissioner Kelly's right, and let's say we get 200,000 versus 800,000 Dorney Park revenue, has like pre-work essentially been done in 2020 to identify the next $600,000 expenditure reductions that we might be able to accomplish?
Who are you posing that question to, Commissioner Walk? Is that Renee?
I guess, well, yes, I guess Renee.
Well, I can answer that question. I can answer that question. Yes, we've done that. We're consistently doing that. And we also, as you may recall, we looked at other revenues too and budgeted them in a conservative manner. So I think Scott would concur as well that I think that we have the opportunity in the event the number doesn't come in. Again, we fell $1.6 million short this year. So I think, again, I think we have the resources and the ability to do that in the budget.
The other factor I would like to add, the other factor that we took into account when trying to figure this number out, I actually wanted 1.1 million, and when in discussions we got talked down for that amount, but that was what I initially started at. But the other thing I wanted to take into account was that with the much news, I don't know who that is.
That's true.
Okay. With the news of vaccines occurring even today, Pfizer's vaccine got approved in the UK, not the US. But as I see the news headed in more positive areas, despite the cases that are rising here in the States and whatnot, that was also taken into effect with the admissions tax as well. In the event, though, in February, March, I think might be a good time to revisit everything. That's about when we, I think it was April when we shut down all spending for this year's budget. And I think in that event, that would still be well ahead of being on track. I think to reevaluate whether or not that budget number is okay.
I think Joe, Commissioner Stettin might have a few words. I think he's muted. There you go, Joe. I think you're unmuted.
Thank you. So I'm hoping everybody can hear me now. Yes.
Yes. Yep.
Can I be heard? Okay. Thank you. So I think I'm very satisfied with what the management and staff is doing. They did a terrific job on the budget, and I would recommend to keep it the way it is.
I have to tend to agree with Commissioner Stettin on this one. Having been through the budget and the fluctuation and knowing the amusement tax and having gone through what we went through this year, I think there's been a lot of thought and conversation with Dorney on coming up with the number that we have. I'm comfortable leaving it the way it is with the budget they've developed. Commissioner Mobilio, did you have a thought or opinion
Yeah.
on?
My position is I don't think that any of us are in a position to second guess what the staff has done, especially Scott and Renee and the rest of the finance team. I think to second guess what they've come up with is to suggest a lack of trust and faith in our staff, and I'm not in any way willing to do that today. So I would suggest leaving it the way it is.
And we don't have to. There's no vote tonight on the budget. This is the last reading. The vote on the budget will be at next week's meeting, the final budget. So again, if there's any, this is the time. The weeks leading up to this are really should have been the time for so many major questions for modifications. So, you know, as far as a vote tonight, we're not voting this evening. This will be the last hearing, and then the final vote will be at the next meeting in December.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment. My questions are to have conversation with the board based on my views, which I'm entitled to, and that does not transfer to a lack of faith or trust in any of our staff. I open my comments by thanking them, but I do look at this from my point of view, which we all do, and that's why we're a board of 5 commissioners who come together to share our collective thoughts for what's right for the township. And we do have the final say on this budget. So I thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts.
Very good. Thank you. All right. Any other questions or comments on the budget?
Yes, I do.
All right.
So it's not directly on the budget. We talked about this at the last meeting, and I'd just like to return to the subject of the audits.
Can we stick to the budget, this one first, and then move to that so we can just not get the issues? Do you have any questions or comments more on the budget, Commissioner Walk?
My comment, which is a bridge to the audit, I'll wait until you want to say it's okay.
No, if it's relative to the budget, absolutely. We can hit it. I just didn't want to lose sight of the item that we're talking about.
I don't have any more comments, financial comments about the budget.
Okay.
Directly.
All right.
My related comment is, I don't think any budget is truly secure without the prior year audits being complete. We recognize the need to complete the audits. The last one was completed in 2015. Works in progress. Scott, Bart, and the team are working extremely hard, to get the internal work done and get the work with the auditors done. So last meeting, we talked about schedule, and we didn't resolve what the completion schedule is. I strongly recommend that we need to do that. So I don't know if I should make a motion, but short of a motion, I strongly recommend that Renee and Scott and all the other resources need to determine as best as possible a fixed completion date, target completion date for the 2016, 17, 18, 19, and soon to be 2020 audit. We just need to get caught up. And right now we don't have any semblance of a schedule to get caught up. Realize everyone's working hard, but I believe we need a schedule we're working to.
Okay. We do have some comments in the chat as well.
Are there any other commissioner thoughts around what I said? Do you agree with me or not? I mean, I would like to, I'll make a motion if I have to and see where everyone stands about the need to ask Renee in the lead to set target completion dates for the several years audits.
Commissioner Walk,
Commissioner Walk, I mean, Scott, can I just say something here?
Yeah, go
Commissioner
for it.
Walk, there is a preliminary schedule, Commissioner Walk, that Scott and I are actively working on with auditors, which I believe we shared last time. And so until that schedule is finalized, we're not going to publicly disclose that because, again, that's dependent on the schedule of our independent auditors who we are actively working with. So as soon as that schedule is determined, we will release that.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Commissioner
What
Walker.
I was going to add,
Go ahead, Scott.
what I was going to add to all the commissioners is that, this may be a question that might be better answered in a finance committee meeting.
I think
Yeah.
that would be a good idea. Maybe we can schedule one for sometime this month to, I was actually going to discuss that, Scott, with you at some point. Thank you for sending the month-end financials for October. I didn't have a chance to review them because of lateness, but if we could set one up, I think that would be wonderful to be able to review, where we've been in these sort of matters, just to get back up on track. I know we've not been able to meet since, I guess, the past couple of months, but we can get back on track with doing that. I think that'd be great to do. So
Commissioner Kelly, I think Scott had also indicated in that we would circle back in February. Budget and finance typically, and again, you're a new commissioner, but I think we've discussed this, typically does not meet during the budget process or year end because we are doing so much year end work. So as Scott sent those financials in one of the emails, I do believe he said he'd circle back in early February for a finance and budget meeting.
Well, February it is. That sounds wonderful.
Great. Good. All right. Any other questions or comments from the board? So we do have some questions and comments in the chat. Manley, did you have a specific question or just your comments? You might need to, there you go.
As a statement, it's only 5% of the budget total revenue, and having been involved with lots of budget formulations with a lot more money than this, I think if you hit it within 5%, you're doing excellent.
Thank you.
Very good. Thanks, Manley. Did you have anything else, questions or comments, Manley, that you wanted while we have you on the?
Yeah, based on what Commissioner Walk said, I was wondering when the last audit by the state auditor general was. Covering what period?
Renee, do you have that information, or can we get that to Manley at some point?
It's bigger. Yours again.
Renee, you're on mute.
Sorry, I'm trying to get off. Manley, the Auditor General, these are audits that are submitted to the DCED. The Auditor General does the pension audits, which is an every 3-year audit, and we're actually in the process of one of those right now.
Oh, okay. That's all they do is your pension audit. I wasn't aware of that. Sorry.
Correct. These are audits that we submit to the DCED that are performed by independent auditors, are the actual township audits.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Manley. All right, Mr. Hodges, you had a question?
Yes, Robert Hodges. Sorry, is that better? We don't want feedback.
All good.
Robert Hodges, 1707 Pence Crossing. I had a question about the budget, which I will ask, but since the audit also came up, I have a quick question about that. My understanding from the last meeting is that by law, we're supposed to have an audit completed every year, and we haven't since 2016. Are we paying any kind of penalty for that, for not following the law, or what's happening based on that?
No, we do not pay a penalty.
Again,
we've been in touch.
I'm not getting a response.
Yeah, you are getting a response. She's responding.
And
Go ahead.
There is no penalty. Again, it's a report submitted to the DCED, and we've been in contact with them. We're on ongoing communication with the DCED regarding the status.
Oh, so it's a law that we have to do it, but we just don't do it, and that's fine.
It's not being done. It is being done, and they're aware of the extensions and the date differences for getting those audits in. I believe, I don't want to speak for Renee, but that's the case. There are no violations.
Okay.
Is that a correct statement, Renee?
I think we lost her.
That's a correct statement.
All right, very good.
Okay, in terms of the budget, I just want to make sure I understand it. I'm not an accountant. It appears that in just about every category, our expenses are greater than our revenue. And again, this is projections for the following year, not what we did this past year, right? So these are just projections, and it appears that our expenses are greater than our revenues in almost every category. Is that correct? Am I reading it correctly?
Yeah, the only part I would add here is that our estimated cash carry forward is what balances that aspect of the budget. So even though it says revenue less expenses in the general fund, for instance, at $630,901, we also will be carrying quite a bit of cash into 2021. And so even though it does show revenue less expenses, what's left over is the budgeted unappropriated reserve amount at the very bottom, which is what we should be focusing on. And if you look in past budget years, you'll also see very similar numbers in terms of revenue less expenses being in the negative for many of the funds as well. And so I just want to make that clear, and that's a normal occurrence here in this budget process.
Okay, but again, just so I understand what that means, basically we have cash in the bank that can cover those shortfalls. Is that what we're saying?
That is correct.
Okay, so it is actually, we're running at a deficit, not a surplus, but we have cash to cover it.
No, that is not correct.
That is
We are not
correct.
running at a deficit. So let me put it this way. This last year we had budgeted almost 16 million in expenses, but we're going to fall far under that at about, I think we're ballpark in the general fund. I think we're about 13. And so with that cash carry forward, and maybe it's a presentation issue on this sheet, and maybe I'll look at that in the future. But we are not in any way running at a deficit.
Okay, so as years go by and the expenses appear to be greater than the revenue year after year, we won't run out of that cash carry eventually. That saved money will not eventually run out.
Unless that budgeted unappropriated reserve amount goes to the negative. That is correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
For sure.
All right, any other questions from the audience? All right, none. Thank you, Renee. Thank you, Scott. Looking forward to the final reading and vote at the next meeting. All right, next on the agenda, we have no ordinances. However, we have a variety of resolutions this evening for consideration and possible action. The interview committee has been very busy over the past month and a half with interviews, and in front of you this evening, we have 3 resolutions for vacant positions. One is the Green Advisory Board Council, one is the Landscape and Shade Tree Commission, and one is the Planning Commission. So I'll start with the first resolution for consideration. I will start by letting everybody know that the interview committee, which consists of myself, Commissioner Mobilio, and for the Green Advisory Council, that would be Chairman Frank Petrocelli, met with 5 different candidates for the Green Advisory Council. All of those candidates were amazing and brought amazing things to the table. We do recommend appointing Ms. Alma Hupash to the South Whitehall Township Green Advisory Council. But before we make a motion, I will open it up to Commissioner Mobilio for any thoughts or comments on that particular recommendation this evening.
Yeah, I don't want to embarrass her because I see that she's on the line, but I would just say that based on our interview, she is, and I'm not going to say her name because I'm afraid to say it wrong, and I don't want to embarrass myself either. So, but I will just tell you that based on our interview with her, she is incredibly dedicated. She has ideas. She's got motivation. Frank Petruccelli was obviously a big fan of hers as well. I think she's going to make a great addition. She is a professor at Lehigh University, well respected, well regarded. She's going to make a fine addition. She's going to be a great asset, and that's all I have. I think she's going to be fantastic.
Great. Thanks, Commissioner Mobilio. It was an absolute pleasure to interview all the candidates, and certainly all of the candidates that will keep resumes and their applications on hand. Were there any other questions or comments on this particular resolution for consideration this evening for appointing Alma to the Green Advisory Council? I will open it up to Chairman Petruccelli if he had any thoughts or comments as well. I think Frank's on the line. I'm not sure which number he is, though he might not be. If we have him muted, he might not be able to speak. Frank, he might not be able to. So are there any other questions or comments from the board on this particular resolution for consideration this evening?
Commissioner Morgan, I do have a general overview question regarding the interview committee. It's my understanding that the finance subcommittee, the fire subcommittee, and the interview committee are advisory boards. Yes. And correct. Just to process for this, the full board was not aware of these openings until very recently. I know Commissioner Wolk had at several meetings, I know he had expressed his desire to have these postings for interview committee openings posted so that the public would be aware, so we could have equal opportunity for citizens to apply. And I guess I'm just curious on this process, as two commissioners are handling these interviews. The full board is not aware of any other candidates. We're not aware of how the interview went with this particular candidate, although I'm sure she's wonderful based on what I've heard so far. I'm questioning process now. So with the advisory board that you are interviewing and you come to the full board with only one person, it seems that is excluding the full board from participation in the filling of vacancies in this township. So I'm curious as to if there are bylaws for that, each committee, because I'm not aware of them. And if so, where would they be found? And just want to understand that process.
So again, I know we've talked about this numerous times. There are no bylaws for this. This is an advisory committee. We are all broken up into individual committees. And Commissioner Mobilio and I happen to sit on the interview committee along with the chairs of each board and commission. So what happens is, when the applications are there and the vacancies come available, we interview the applicants and make a recommendation to the full board. Your comment about it just becoming aware, I fully expected this to come up again. We've been mentioning vacancies and the process as early as September, in addition to meetings prior to that. It was mentioned, the vacancies were mentioned at the September 16th meeting. I mentioned them again, the specific vacancies on GAC, Planning Commission, and Shade Tree on November 4th. It was mentioned at the meeting on 11/18, again on the meeting at 11/19. I know, Diane, you personally have mentioned it at various meetings. Some of the applicants got the information directly from you because they told me that you had mentioned it to them, which is wonderful. I think that's great. So I think this comment that keeps coming back around that, we're not being transparent and we're not sharing the information and people are unaware of openings. It's quite honestly, it's getting a little old because we share this at virtually every single meeting anymore. And we've done nothing.
Let's just call it. This is a lie, okay? And this has been a repeating lie over and over and over again. Let's just call it what it is and be honest, because that's what it is. And it's a fabrication of the truth to serve certain purposes.
I don't appreciate a sitting commissioner calling someone a liar. Or
I
lie.
didn't call you a liar.
Okay, enough. enough. We are
speaking
not,
about
we're not
process.
going to argue this tonight. I simply shared the process with you, Commissioner Kelly, and that's how it works. If the way it works is we will make a recommendation based on the interviews of all the applicants. It's just not Commissioner Mobilio and I who interview them. It's also the chair of the committee. There's many people involved, as well as Renee, a staff individual. So if you're not comfortable with our recommendation, you can simply vote no. If you vote no and the majority of the board votes no, we go back to the drawing board and bring up a new applicant or a new candidate. We would trust that you would, trust in the people that we're bringing in front of you are people that are good for these roles and positions. That's what we are on this board to do, this advisory board to do. So again, we have a recommendation in front of you. We've shared their resume with you as well. And everybody has been clearly notified that we've had vacancies available. And this is our recommendation for this evening. And I would like to put a motion on the floor to recommend Alma Halpush as the new person on the Green Advisory Council.
Comment.
Second motion.
May I make my comment?
You certainly can, Commissioner Walk.
Thank you.
Certainly.
I think the information that Commissioner Kelly provided was truthful. I could provide the factual information about the Planning Commission position and when all the information was provided. I'll do that, and then I want to go back to make sure we're understanding what Commissioner Kelly said. So I'm not trying to create a conflict here. I'm just trying to provide factual information. The Planning Commission position was open for several months. It wasn't advertised on the webpage. It was not communicated at any Board of Commissioner meeting until the last meeting, November 11th. It was not communicated at any Planning Commission meeting. At the November 19th Planning Commission meeting, the question came up and nobody on that committee knew there was an opening. And until it was explained to them that the first time it was announced was one day prior at the November 18th Board of Commissioners meeting. So, I mean, in effect, nobody knew it was open. And as Diane Kelly said, we had several discussions. And as you said, Commissioner Morgan, we've had several commission discussions on this subject over the past several months. Although this Planning Commission position was open, it was never mentioned at any of these meetings. And that's the public has a problem with that. Diane Kelly is advocating that we have more open communication, and I am as well. And whatever that is, got posted in early November. Those are the facts. Now, I would like to go back to what Diane Kelly recommended. I think she's recommending on the other part of the process that it be improved. And she views, and I concur with her, that an improvement would be to see, who put another step in there where the interview committee identifies these are the candidates that will be interviewed, review that with the board, and then go interview them, and then come back with the one selected. That would add a step. It would create more inclusion, both with the board and with the public. And once again, a neighboring township does this exact same thing. A neighboring township posts the applications online so that the government, the staff, and the public can see those openings.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Walk. We will certainly take all of that under advisement. I think we can all agree to disagree on some of the facts that you provided, because I can assure you that these have been posted long before. Commissioner Seton, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether I'm muted or not. I apologize. Okay, so it sounds like, so I just want to say, I'm not good. So I just want to say that I trust Commissioner Kelly and Commissioner Walk when they are doing their financial committee. I have their trust, but at the same time, I have the same trust in Commissioner Mobilio and in Commissioner Morgan in doing the right things. I think those positions were advertised sufficiently. They were out there, and I certainly think that they did the right choice. So I will vote yes.
I think what's most important tonight is, and I will let you all know, we have all of the chairs for the committees that we're looking to fill tonight are on the call. We also have the potential candidates on the call. This is an exciting night. This is a good thing. Let's not turn it into a bad thing. These are amazing people that were interviewed. All of them were amazing people that were interviewed, and they're high quality people. We would not make a recommendation if we didn't believe they were. So again, I have a recommendation on the floor for Alma. We had a second, I believe, from Commissioner Mobilio. So unless there's any other questions or comments from the board or from the public, I do believe we should take a vote on this.
Commissioner Walk.
Aye.
Commissioner Mobilio.
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly.
No.
Commissioner Stetton.
Aye.
Commissioner Morgan.
Aye, motion carries. Alma, we are thrilled to have you part of the Green Advisory Council. I know you will do amazing things for this township. Thank you for your willingness to serve. We have everybody on mute, so I'm not sure if you can speak.
And it looks like the chat has been disabled. I don't know if the public had questions, but.
Renee, you want to open that up, or Randy, if there were, we could still answer any questions.
I just want to comment, my no vote was in no way a reflection of the candidate. I have no background information except for the resume that was given. I have no idea about how anything went with the interviews. It would have been helpful as a commissioner to have had some further information, since we as a full board are actually making the actual appointments on the recommendation of a recommending body.
And just in response to that really quick, when we had our first meeting, we were all given the opportunity to volunteer for whatever boards that we wanted to be a part of. And that was planning, that was civil service, whatever you wanted. Tori and I volunteered to be on interview committee. There were no objections, there were no issues, there was no question about procedure. From January 19th until December 2nd, there was not a single question, comment, concern, email, text, phone call about an issue with regard to the procedure by which these candidates were picked. Now, why this is coming up tonight, I can guess why, and I'm going to take a wild guess and say we're going to find out 2 candidates from now, and based on what I've seen online. But what I would recommend to everyone is, if you have a concern, then you should bring it up timely. There's something in the law called the doctrine of latches, and what that means is, if you sit on your hands and do nothing, you don't get to then complain when it's time to call attention to the court. So you don't get to just say, well, I'm not voting against this person, I'm voting against the process. The vote against the process was to be made 11 months ago. Tonight, it was a vote against a person, and whether that makes you comfortable or not, it's too bad, because it's a vote against a person, and that's the vote you have to live with.
Well, it's actually not Commissioner Mobilio, it's about process. And the reason that I'm bringing this up tonight is because this is the first time we've been given all of these appointments to make, and I had no idea what the process was going to look like. And we've had no conversations as a board.
On Monday, not tonight. Agenda came out on Monday. You were aware of it 2 days ago. It's the first time anyone's heard about your concern.
This is the first time we've been together as a board due to the Sunshine Act. We're not allowed to have a board meeting together.
You can email one of us on the interview committee. You could have emailed me. You could have called me. You could have emailed Tori. You could have emailed Renee. You could have contacted any one of us individually with your concerns, but that wasn't public. there was no attention being drawn to that, and that's why it's being brought up tonight for the first time.
Well,
Okay, we're gonna move on. Diane, we're gonna move on now.
I have a comment.
I
We
would
opened the floor here on a subject. I have a comment.
We're going to move on. We're not going to argue over this process at this point. We have three more resolutions.
I'm sorry. A point was made, and I would like to make a quick comment about the point made. The point was made that we should have brought this up sooner. With regard to the point that I made tonight, I brought it up at the first meeting in September, and we talked about it at 2 to 3 more meetings.
Right, exactly.
We brought this up, and here's what happened. Here's what happened. I made a motion to post the position openings. It was voted down 3 to 2. Then I made a motion to add position openings to the Board of Commissioners agenda. And then it was voted to table it as opposed to approve it. So tonight is not the first time that I brought this up.
Right.
And it was during all of those discussions that the Planning Commission position was never revealed. It was held in secret.
Oh,
on October 7th, 2020, Lee Solt applied for the GAC and the Planning Commission, October 7th. So unless he has a cloak of invisibility that he can wander around the township and overhear things, then he knew by sitting in on the meetings and looking at the township website that those were available options. In fact, we've got Lee Solt, October 7th. Caitlin Sotner, October 4th, applies to be on GAC. Matt Mulqueen applied for Planning Commission on September 4th. We have Derek Pinkman, October 20th for GAC. We have Ben Long has had his application for some time. So this idea that this is some thing that just appeared out of nowhere, all of a sudden this vacancy, well, I think that these applicants who submitted their applications 2 months ago would probably disagree with this suggestion that we only, quote, recently learned of vacancies.
I'll address your comment. Lee Solt submitted his application over a year ago and was a candidate for the position filled in late 2019 in the Planning Commission. Right. So he followed the old process. He didn't just submit an application in October.
Not the old process.
And I will agree, Commissioner Morgan has been very good at presenting the GAC information and GAC openings. The same is not true for the Planning Commission.
Commissioner Walk, just for the record, I have mentioned the Planning Commission opening. I mentioned it as early as November 4th. I think I had mentioned it as early as, well, I know it was November 4th because I have it in the notes. I have it on from November 18th and 19th. They've all been mentioned in numerous meetings. So again, we can belabor this conversation a million times. I will answer a few questions. Vacancies are posted on the website. They are all there, along with expiration dates have all been added, I believe. And so that information is all available. When it comes to transparency, we are beyond transparent with this. We go up and beyond providing information, and we are going to continue to get better and better at it as long as you give us the chance to be able to do that. And we are doing that with the new website. But all of your things that you're stating, that these things were kept in secret, that's a truly unfair statement, Commissioner Walk. And I really, I'm taken back by that. There's no secrecy here. Everything is transparent. We're not hiding information. We interviewed 5 people for GAC. We interviewed 4 applicants for planning. So there have been plenty of people that are interested, and we have interviewed them all. So with all due respect, I really would like to respect the people that are on this call and the candidates that are on this call and the chairs for the boards, and move forward with some of these resolutions for consideration. If any commissioner isn't happy with the recommendation made by Commissioner Mobilio and I, you can absolutely vote no. That's your right. Absolutely vote no. And it'll have to, if the majority votes no, we go back to the process again. But we need to move forward with this. So with that being said, I'd like to move forward with the next resolution for consideration this evening, and this is a resolution appointing Mr. Dave Wilson to the South Whitehall Township Landscape and Shade Tree Commission. I will say this was a unique position. There was no other interested party in this one. Dave Wilson was our only candidate. He comes highly recommended by the chair of that board, which is Dave Dunbar. Dave Dunbar has already been working with Dave Wilson in this role and been doing it for quite some time. So he comes highly recommended. And Commissioner Mobilio, again, I'll hand it over to you as being part of that. I'm not sure if Mr. Dunbar's on the call this evening either, but do you have any other thoughts or comments on that recommendation this evening?
The only thing I would say is that thankfully, even though we only had one applicant, Dave Wilson's obviously very enthusiastic about the Landscape and Shade Tree Commission. So we're lucky that we have only one applicant, but that applicant appears to be very enthusiastic and happy to be a part of that board.
Great, thank you, Commissioner Mobilio. Were there any other thoughts or comments on this recommendation this evening, appointing Mr. David Wilson to the Landscape, Shade and Tree Commission? Any questions from the public? All right, that being said, do I hear a motion to appoint Mr. Wilson to the Landscape and Shade Tree Commission?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Mobilio. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second from Commissioner Seton. Can I have a roll call vote, please, Renee?
Commissioner Walk,
Aye.
Commissioner Mobilio,
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly,
No.
Commissioner Seton,
Yes.
Commissioner Morgan.
Aye, motion carries. I'm not sure, I don't think Dave Wilson is with us this evening. And I want to personally thank him for his interest and his willingness to volunteer and all of the time he's already put into this particular board. So congratulations on your appointment. All right, next this evening for consideration and possible action, we have a resolution appointing Mr. Matthew Mulqueen to the South Whitehall Township Planning Commission. I will say Matt is not a newcomer to South Whitehall Township. He's been a very dedicated individual to the township on many levels. He served on the zoning hearing board. He has also was a sitting commissioner for 4 years as well. He comes with a lot of experience and desire and passion. The other candidates that also interviewed for this particular position, there were 4 in total. Amazing candidates. They all interviewed extremely well, brought great things to the table. But the decision by the full interview committee, including Chairman Bill McNair, was to recommend Mr. Matthew Mulqueen to the Open Planning Commission seat. I will turn it over to Commissioner Mobilio again as part of the interview committee, and after him, Chairman McNair, if there's any other comments.
Thank you, Commissioner Morgan. I might embarrass Matt a little bit, so he wants to turn his sound off. That was a good time to do it. I first met Matt at the Lehigh County soccer fields about 6 years ago. I'd be up early, about 6 or 7 in the morning. I'd be with my father-in-law. I'd take my chocolate lab down to the park. I believe at that time, Matt's dog was named Riley Yellow Lab. He'll correct me if I'm wrong. We would talk about stories of the day, politics, etc. He always knew that I was a Democrat. I always knew that he was Republican, but we never really argued about politics. When I bought a home in South Whitehall Township over 7 years ago, I found out that I lived right across the street from his mom, which is where Matt grew up, which is also down the street from Commissioner Morgan. And I believe the house, his father actually built that house, and that's where him and his family lived for some time. Matt and his family have really been tried and true South Whitehall Township dedicated residents. When Matt was elected to the Board of Commissioners in 2015, he recommended me to replace him on the zoning board, which he had been a member of for about 10 years at that time. I didn't realize at the time how much of an honor it was until I met with the other zoning board members, and they spoke so highly of Matt, and they talked about his attention to detail, his excellent judgment, and his dedication to the board and to the township. When I ran for commissioner during the primary, Matt and I talked about our dedication to public service, and we actually discussed that if we both made it through the primary, that we would possibly run on a joint ticket, Democrat and Republican, to emphasize the importance of bipartisanship in the work for the township. This summer, as many of you know, I made a very poor taste comment, and Matt was one of the first people to reach out to me. But instead of taking the low road, as many people did do and has been done online, he didn't. In fact, he wrote me the following text, and I hope I'm not again embarrassing him by reading this. He said, "Matt, my political leanings are to the right. Yours are to the left. I get that. You and I can and have found common ground. Rhetoric needs to stop. I'm counting on you to help find and foster common ground and understanding." That is what Matt Mulqueen has always and will continue to bring to the township as a member of the Planning Commission, an open mind and a search for common ground. I know that there are, unfortunately, people here tonight, including probably some commissioners, who will oppose his nomination. I'm here to tell you that any opposition to his nomination is meritless, and I'll tell you why. His and my and all of the volunteers in the township's responsibilities are not just to those members of the public who are the most vocal, or to the folks who complain the most on Facebook, the folks who show up to the most meetings. Our loyalty is to the township as a whole, the betterment of each and every neighborhood in the township, regardless of our opinions on politics or future development. Matt Mulqueen is the embodiment of everything this township needs in a volunteer commission member: relevant experience, dedication, and independent judgment. To oppose his nomination is to oppose everything expected of a public servant. So with that, I yield the floor.
Thank you, Commissioner Mobilio. I will open it up if Chairman McNair is on the line. He might be muted and you might not be able to speak. I'm not sure, but I wanted to give him the opportunity for any thoughts or comments as part of the interview committee.
I will try to comment. I think we had 4 excellent candidates for the position, and I agree fully with Matt Mulqueen. He had the most experience and seemed to have all the ability we need and talents we need for the work on the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. All right, I will open it up to the rest of the board for any thoughts or comments on this particular resolution for consideration tonight.
I'll just make a comment also about the Matt Mulqueen and his dedication to the township, his experience, his knowledge is second to none. I believe he would be a great addition to the Planning Commission.
Thanks, Commissioner Seton. Any other thoughts or comments from the board before I open it up to any questions from the public?
I have a comment.
Sure.
So here's a case where this is being presented to us as a, single nominee, thumbs up, thumbs down vote. My main thoughts are, I have a great respect for Matt Mulqueen. I know Matt, through my, prior to being elected, my many years in being a citizen advocate. So I've seen Matt at the public meetings, and I have great respect for him. My main thought in this case is, I also know 2 other candidates who applied, and I think I know them equally well through their appearance at the public meetings, both the Board of Commissioners and the Planning Commission. And I think they are also strong candidates. As Bill McNair just said, that you had 4 strong candidates. So here's the way I think about it. At this time and place in the township and in our government and committees, I think it would be a good idea to have a new person who should be given the opportunity to join the Planning Committee. And I would prefer to see that one of the other candidates who you thought was a strong candidate would be considered for the Planning Commission. And then with that, based on Matt Mulqueen's background and his prior service to the township, I I think Matt should be considered for the current zoning hearing board opening. He's served there for 10 years. I think his background fits better there with the legal structure and the legal context. I realize he would be returning to that position, but I think that would be a good fit.
Well, Commissioner, would you be in favor of, if you want a new person on the board, would you be in favor of Commissioner Kelly resigning her position on planning so we could put a new person on that board in her position?
I think that comment and subject's completely irrelevant to what we're doing here.
Yeah, well, that's actually completely relevant because the point is, this is the same argument that was raised when Mark Pinsley was applying to be on GAC, and it was, oh, we need new voices. Well, okay, does that mean the same for emergency management team? Does that mean the same for planning commission? Does that mean the same for, I don't know, how about zoning board? Why don't you tell Don Klein it's time for him to step down after 20 years because we need new faces?
Point of order, I don't think it's fair to bring other board members' names public because they're not here to defend themselves.
Regardless if you think it's fair or not, Diane, it doesn't really matter. The point is that if your position is that we need new people, then you need to get the old people to step down, and that could start with Commissioner Kelly, and we could start with a whole new planning commission if you want.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Commissioner Mobilio. From the board, I'm going to move it over to the public for any questions from the public. I have, oh, geez, Louise. Is there a question or comment? I can't tell if that's Monica, is that Monica Hodges? Question, comment?
It is me.
Welcome.
Can you hear me?
We sure can.
Okay. So I'm saying this not because I am against the candidate. I appreciate everything Matthew Mulqueen has done for our township. I appreciate everything all of you have done. It's very time consuming, it's exhausting, and I do appreciate him. However, I think you're missing one important thing with this appointment. And yes, Commissioner Mobilio, I did see it online, okay, but he was voted out. The citizens of South Whitehall did say, we don't want you making decisions for us anymore. They voted him out. And I think that by appointing him, you're not listening to the constituents that you represent. Again, this is nothing against his character, his knowledge base, nothing against any of that.
Well,
Monica, can I just add a quick comment to that real quick?
Whoa,
everyone's talking. We have a variety of individuals that are on various boards and commissions, just so you know, that were either lost in an election or maybe had served before. So I think you need to think about that comment a little bit because that may not be appropriate. I just bring that to you.
I have thought about it. People have spoken. People do not want him making decisions for them. He was instrumental in passing all the waivers on Ridge Farm. He was instrumental in that, and you know how unpopular that development is. We all know how unpopular that development is. And people don't want him making decisions, especially related to land development. They said it in the primary. You can smile, you can laugh at me, you can do whatever, but it's true. People have spoken. They don't want him making decisions in that capacity. They don't want him speaking for them.
With that same, under that same, idea, I assume then that if, for instance, Tom Witch were to run for re-election, you would oppose it because he lost.
This has nothing to do with Tom Witch. Don't deflect.
Okay. I'm not deflecting. I'm comparing it to.
You are.
All I'm saying, Monica,
I feel that if he wants to serve, please put him in a position where he does not have to make any decisions about land development, any decisions about what's going on with our land, because people said it loud and clear last May. Great guy, knowledgeable guy. Put him in a place where he can add to this township, where he can contribute his talents, but not be in a position where he is making decisions for a population that clearly didn't appreciate the decisions he's made in the past. I appreciate you listening to me. Thank you.
Welcome. All right, I'd like to move forward with this particular resolution appointing Mr. Matthew Mulqueen to the South Whitehall Township Planning Commission. That being said, is there a motion to move forward with said appointment?
I'll make them.
We have a motion on the floor from Commissioner Seton. Do I hear a second?
Excuse me, there are still requests for comments made in the chat. So I was wondering if we could honor those first.
Oh, well, I did hit unless there was another one that came in.
There were at least 3 after Ms. Hodges that would like to make a comment.
Hold on one second here. Mine's not dropping down. My apologies.
From Hodges. That's everyone else. Oh, I'm sorry, David Burr. Oh, there are a few there too.
No, my apologies. It drops down. My comments box doesn't drop down. That was the last one I saw, was from Mrs. Hodges. All right, Mr. Burke. My apologies.
Thank you. Dave Burke, Buck Trail Road. My comment isn't about the person. My comment is about the nominee. I'm sure is a very fine person, has been attested to. My comment is more about the vision, a vision of what this township should look like. A vision that brought us Ridge Farms, 1 million square feet of warehouses, record numbers of apartments, and the traffic and the gridlock that accompanies it. It is about the efforts of those that brought us that vision to sustain it. In the elections of May and November 2019, the citizens of the township rejected that vision overwhelmingly. But Commissioner Morgan, you managed to sustain that vision by handpicking your 3rd board member, and hence we have 3-2 votes continually. And now, by handpicking a planning commission member who has proven to share your vision in the past. Let me restate, not at all about the person. It's about the vision. A vision which was voted against at the ballot box in May and again in November 2019. And to Mr. Mobilio's comment, it's not about the few people who attend these meetings and speak out. It's about the voters of May and November 2019. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Or I just have to say just one thing very quickly. If any applicant for planning commission, Matt Mulqueen or any of the other folks that applied, said to us, here's my vision for planning, I would have said, you're in the wrong place. Nobody should be applying to be on planning commission with a vision of what this township should look like, because that is not their role. That is not their job. Their job is to call balls and strikes. That is, a developer comes to you with a plan. Does it comply with what is required? Yes, you give the thumbs up. No, here are the conditions in which we may agree to allow it to go forward. Anyone who comes into that position with a premeditated vision or plan as to what the township should look like has no business being in that position. And that's why Mr. Mulqueen is the best candidate for this job.
All right, thank you. And just for the record, although I'm flattered that Mr. Burke, that you think I have that much power, I do not. I did not handpick anybody. I am one board member of a board of 5, and every position goes to a full vote, and you would need the majority to vote for that. So just for the record, I didn't handpick anybody, but anyways, thank you for your comments.
Mr. Mobilio helped you handpick the person. And I'll end it.
Okay. Well, I did? Okay. That's enough. That's he wasn't even on the board at that time, but that's okay.
I wish I had.
Let's move along. We have any other questions or comments? We have Mr. Roth, Jacob Roth. Thank you.
Hi, thank you, Commissioner Morgan. I first want to say thank you to Mr. Mulqueen for his many years of service to the township. donating your time and your talent and your expertise coming from your field of work to the public arena is admirable. And I think anybody that serves in these positions and even puts their name out for these positions is really admirable. And I thank Mr. Mulqueen and the other nominees tonight for stepping out and volunteering for these positions. I do have just a very brief comment about this process. I have said this before, and I really hate saying it, and I wish I would never have to say it again. I just ask that during these proceedings, the commissioners treat each other with respect. If there are issues that arise over appointments, whether it be Planning Commission or Shade Tree Commission, if commissioners make suggestions, treat their suggestions and their character with respect. Like Commissioner Kelly said earlier, you are a board of 5, not a board of 1. You're going to disagree. But please treat each other with respect. I want each of the commissioners to speak to each other, and I'm not going to single people out, but I think people on this call have a very good idea what I'm talking about. But I would like each of the commissioners to speak to their fellow commissioners and to their citizens, not in a condescending or patronizing way. Commissioners know no better than the citizens know no better than the commissioners. Speak to each other the way you would want your children to speak to their friends. And that's all I ask. I ask you to be kind and respectful, no matter what the outcome is. And again, I really want to thank all the nominees for stepping forward and putting their name in. You know, I may disagree with nominees on certain things, but all of them have my respect and a lot of people's respect as well. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for your comments. All right. I don't believe I've missed anybody else. If I have for comments or questions.
Yeah, there's Robert Hodges. I wish to say something as well.
Oh, sure. I'm sorry. I thought.
Full disclosure, I applied for the Planning Commission vacancy. Unfortunately, I only applied a few days ago when obviously it was late, but it just shows my point about the transparency of this process. I think you obviously know pretty well. I come to all these meetings as well as the Planning Commission meetings, at least the ones I'm able to make it to when I'm not at work. I did not know that there was a vacancy in the Planning Commission until the most recent Planning Commission meeting of November 19th. I believe I have that date. When I asked the question, Mr. Quinn, I believe it was Vinnie Quinn, his name is listed in the roll call every meeting for the past however many months, even though apparently now we are to understand he resigned in August. Am I getting that correct? He resigned in August?
He did not submit official written resignation. I don't think he's even submitted it yet, and that's what part of the confusion was.
I'm sorry, I missed that. I
said he never submitted an official written resignation, which was part of the confusion with the Planning Commission. I mean, he may not have even submitted it yet. I mean, maybe Renee knows better, but last I heard, he hadn't even signed a written resignation.
Okay, so he resigned unofficially in August. You were holding interviews in October and November, and yet his name is still being announced during the roll call for the Planning Commission. When I asked, where is Mr. Quinn? He hasn't been here for many meetings. Is he still a member? A couple of the members of the Planning Commission started telling me, well, his job has changed with COVID. His schedule is different. He can't make the meetings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. At least 2 or 3 of the members of the Planning Commission didn't even know he had resigned. How is it possible for the public to know that there is a vacancy in that position when the board itself didn't even know there was a vacancy?
It was on the website, Rob.
It was on the website, Matt. Thank you. When I looked hard enough and I finally found it, which is not the easiest thing in the world. You obviously know where it is. You are putting your phone up to the screen many times and showing us, but to someone who doesn't know how to navigate that website very well, it's not that easy to find. And someone who is interested enough to go to these meetings, it's very clear there was no position because they kept calling his name out. It wasn't until I asked that finally someone admitted, oh, he resigned. And the other board members were like, what? He did? I had no idea. So how could the public know?
Rob, if you knew in the beginning of November that there was an opening, why'd you wait till November 30th to apply?
I didn't know that it was in the beginning of November. It was November 19th at that meeting that I found out.
Okay, so why'd you wait 11 days to apply?
That's irrelevant.
Hmm.
You're right. I waited a week too long. Obviously, the pick would have been made already. That's on me for not sending it out that night. Yeah, but still, we're talking November 19th when the public finally knew. You had already held interviews. The process had already started. So
Rob,
I'm just not as
you're at every
transparent.
single one of these meetings.
I'm sorry?
You're at every single one of these meetings, and you've heard even
Exactly.
Commissioner Walk testify or talk about the fact that it's been brought up multiple times in our November meetings. Commissioner Morgan believes she brought it up in October. Is it your belief that the first time you heard that there was any opening in planning was on November 19th?
It was the first time that it was obvious when the Planning Commission itself said, yes, this person resigned, because up to that point, it was unclear.
I can say this, that I announced in the beginning of the meeting on the November 4th meeting, I announced it's in the meeting that there were open positions for GAC, Planning Commission, and Shade Tree Commission. That I announced, and that was at a public meeting for the Board of Commissioners. So, there has been many announcements. It is on the website. If you're having problems finding it, we're happy to show you. We've talked about it at numerous meetings. I really would like to, going back to the comment, I think that was made before by Mr. Roth, I'd like to show respect, not just to the commissioners amongst themselves, but to the individuals that we're recommending this evening that are sitting on this call as we go back and forth. Again, I'll say it, all the applicants were wonderful, very good applicants, and there's going to be more opportunities down the road, and all these applications and resumes will remain on file, including yours, Mr. Hodges. We'll be excited to interview you for any future positions. And so that doesn't, fall off the radar. But the recommendation we have in front of us this evening, we believe as an interview committee is the best choice for the position that is open today. And that is our recommendation. Again, I'll come back to, this is a 5-person vote. If the board isn't in the majority of agreement, that's their prerogative, and then we would move on to the process again, picking the next candidate. So that being said, I really do want to not take away from the good of this, which is picking out an excellent candidate, which I believe we did, and which is something that's important for this township, and try and move through this. We keep.
I think she froze. Oops.
Someone want to message her. Well, I don't know who has control of the meeting, but there are other people who wanted to comment.
Hey, Renee, are you on the line? Renee? Renee, are you frozen too?
Hey, sorry, I'm trying to send a number.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to tell you. She just texted me. She needs the calling information.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do.
I just sent it to her.
This is Carl Mabry, 909 Hillview Road. Could I make a comment while we're waiting?
Well, no, we have to wait for our the commissioner to come online. Please hang on for just 2 minutes.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes.
My apologies, everybody. My computer just totally shut me down. My apologies. Anyways, I was hoping we could move forward. Was there another comment? I thought I heard somebody jump in with a comment right as I. Go ahead.
Yeah, Carl Mabry, 909 Hillview Road. It seems like everybody's saying that these vacancies are transparent and that they're on the website. Would it be a terrible thing just to put a tab right along with the Planning Commission, the Board of Commissioners, and all of that? Make it easily accessible so anybody that doesn't attend these meetings, which is a majority of the township citizenry, could you please put a tab that they could just click on existing vacancies on any board or committee?
I believe that's there. Renee, do you want to comment? We can certainly. Can you guys hear me?
Can you? Yeah.
Yep.
Randy is bringing it up Randy's bringing it up on the website. Again, it's very simple. The first tab, boards and commissions. You click on any of the boards, and the vacancies are listed. And they have been there. And so that's on the website on boards and commissions and the particular boards.
If you go to forms, the forms would be your application. That's there as well.
Well, then my last question would be, could you please post the date that you post these vacancies on those different boards and commissions? So there is no question that it was given in plenty of advance and there's no question about this anymore?
I'm not sure. You mean you'd like to see the date that it becomes vacant on, where instead of it just saying vacancy, you'd like to see it say, like, see where it says under Planning Commission, the third one down, it says vacant term. You want to see the date it became vacant? Is that your comment?
I would like to see the date it becomes vacant and the date that the vacancy was posted. I think it would eliminate a lot of these arguments as far as vacancies on commissions and boards.
Well, we can absolutely look into how to best put a timeline on that vacancy. And we're going to have a lot more flexibility with being able to do that as well with our new website. But that's a good comment, and we can certainly look at that as we move into the new website and posting the information. But I think I understand what you're asking for. Thank you, Carl.
Thank you.
All right. So I apologize again for my technical difficulties. Were there any other questions or comments from the public?
There's a comment from Joanne.
I'm sorry?
There's a comment in the chat from Joanne Markowitz.
Joanne. All right, I don't see that one unless it's above Carl's. Okay, Joanne, did you have a comment? Or a question, rather?
I just unmuted. Hi, I'm Joanne Markowitz. So I actually made 2 comments. Let me find my first one. I just don't feel that things are as transparent as they could be, number one, and I think there's a part that everyone agrees with, and I know that you're getting a new website. I find your website really hard to use. One of the things that I was looking for is I was looking for the minutes for the 11/4 Board of Commissioners meeting and the 11/18, and they were not in the usual spot on YouTube that I had been going to previously. So the last one that shows that is up there is from 10/21. And that was the one where it was kind of stated with, I think someone had stated before about how when someone was questioned about where the planning commissioner was, and they hadn't seen him for a while. It's just, I'm not quite sure what it is in regards to, I've only been attending these meetings for 3 months. And I know, you can go into these board docs and all that stuff. I'm sorry, I've been on the phone with people. And right there is where I go into the year, the 2020 year. And when I go in there, and then it throws me over to the right-hand side, and then I'm supposed to look up the agenda, and then it's very cumbersome, and it's really hard to find anything. And it makes it feel like you're not being transparent. If you think you guys are being transparent from your side, that's your side. But from a resident's viewpoint, I don't feel that there's transparency there. It feels like you didn't put, here's the truth. It feels like you didn't put the 11/18 BOC meetings online because of the questions asked about the vacant position on the Planning Commission, and nobody knew about it, even some of your staff and fellow workers. So that's what we look at. You use the website every day. We do not, you know, and I really have a concern in regards to every time there's voting, what I've seen in the last 3-4 months, it's always almost 95% of the time, it's 3-2, 3-2, 3-2. And I get that everyone has an opinion. I get that everyone's coming from different spots, but it's like, I'm going to tell you what, I don't even feel like coming to these things anymore. I already feel like I know what the outcome is of everything that's voted on. 3-2, 3-2. Like, why am I wasting my time? That's it. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Julianne. And you know, in regards to if you are looking for information, just to answer that question, and you can't find it, please always feel free to call the office, and we would be happy to help either get you that information directly or answer any questions you have. Please know that's always.
Note, I called and left a message twice for Tracy today.
Hello, Joanne.
Yeah.
I did call you back and I explained how to get to the minutes. And maybe I should just explain. When you want to see the minutes, what you would do is when you're on our main webpage, you go to the bottom left and there's a board docs button.
Yes.
You click on that button. It's going to take you to the main page.
Yes.
And there's 3 feature items. I'll wait to Renee, are you doing this right now?
Randy's doing that.
Randy, click on board docs, please. Okay, the second item down, Randy, where it says year ending December 31st, 2020, Board of Commissioners meeting minutes and recordings. Then click on view the agenda right there in the center.
I've done that.
Okay. See, that lists all the meetings that took place this year, and you will find the minutes and the recording for whatever meeting you're looking for, and they're all there. And I would encourage anyone.
Okay, do me a favor. Click on one of those. Click over on one of those on the left-hand side. When I go to click on those, that on the left-hand side, go to the, I don't care which one you take, the September 2020 meeting minutes, December 2nd. Click
He
on
took
that.
November 4th. He clicked on November 4th, 2020.
And
there's the YouTube link and the minutes.
Yeah, and I would encourage anyone, if you have questions, please give me a call at the township. Quite honestly, I get very few calls, and I would be happy to help anyone. I mean, it's just give me a call and I'll help you navigate to, you know, the minutes, the recordings, or whatever. You know, I'd be happy to help you. Just give a call and, you know, we'll take care of you.
And Tracy, just to be clear, this board docs platform, this is not some unique thing that the township uses. Am I right? I mean, this is a fairly commonly used method to communicate information to public municipalities. Is that right?
Other municipalities, they do use board docs, yes.
The Parkland School District uses this as well, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't see where you called me back. You did mention it in the chat how to do it, but I don't see the message, and that's fine. I'll figure it out.
I'm assuming that was, I mean, I received one call, I believe it was today, and I did call that person back right away and I left a message. So if that was you, I did give you a call back.
And you left a message because it's not showing up, but that's okay.
Gave directions, yes. Yes. If that was from you, somebody called me today and I called them back immediately. So again, if you have the questions, you know, you give me a call and I'll be happy to help you navigate through board docs. It's not a big deal. I'm glad to help.
Okay, thank you.
Tracy, thank you. Thank you. All right. Did I hit all the questions and comments? Let me go back down here, make sure I didn't miss any coming down. Are we good? Did I miss anybody for questions or comments?
Yes, I had another question.
Sure.
It's Monica Hodges again. Whoever's side, I feel the same way. I share it. Okay, so can you, Tracy, go, or whoever has the controls, go to Planning Commission for meetings and minutes, please?
Well,
well, they're not there, Commissioner Morgan. That's what I'm saying. I couldn't find them either. There are a few meetings behind, and I realize people are busy and people are burdened. We all are busy. I get it, but there's some meetings that just aren't there. Another question I have is, when you have these vacancies advertised, is there an application deadline posted?
It's a rolling application. There is no deadline on the application. Applications are sent in even when there's not vacancies. People send in applications all the time.
So I'm just going to say, if you listen to people on the call, not hear them, but just really listen, I think you're getting the same message from people. I just don't why can't we make it better? We can always make things better. We can always be better as people, as citizens, as commissioners, as, you know, whatever. We can always grow and be better. So why not? What's the harm in doing something that's going to make it more accessible for people, easier for people? You know, for the amount of time that we've spent going back and forth over what's posted, what's not posted, where it is, just put it out there. It's not that hard. It really is not. And it'll solve a lot of problems. And you know what? The benefit is it will make everybody look better. Everybody. It'll make you look more transparent. It'll make you look like you really do care about people and what they're saying to you. I would really appreciate that. And I appreciate your time. So thank you.
You're welcome. No problem. Point well taken. And certainly we're working on all of those things. All right. Any other questions or comments? All right. That being said, I believe we do have a motion. Now I've totally lost my train of thought. Did we have a motion on the floor? Was that from Commissioner Sutton? And a second from Commissioner Mobilio? Can I have a roll call vote, please, Renee, for the appointment of Matt Mulqueen to the South Whitehall Township Planning Commission?
Commissioner Walk.
No.
Commissioner Mobilio.
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly.
No.
Commissioner Sutton.
Yes.
And Commissioner Morgan.
Yes. Motion carries. Matt, thank you. Just like everyone else, thank you for your willingness to serve. Thank you for your patience as we've discussed all of this, and looking forward to your participation with the Planning Commission. Thank you very much. And thank you everybody for your comments and thoughts. I was writing it all down. We will be working on all these things as we work on our new website and navigating through the existing website as well. And please take Tracy up on her offer. She is fantastic at offering support for anybody who's having problems with the website. So make sure you reach out to her directly. But thank you for your comments for sure. All right, next this evening. Well, no, we have one more resolution for consideration this evening. This is a resolution appointing Scott Bohart to the position of Township Secretary. Renee, do you want to report out on this one?
Yes. Again, this is to appoint Scott Bohart as the Township Secretary. Again, this was a position last held by Steve Carr, but again, looking tonight to appoint Scott to that position. Pretty self-explanatory.
May I just for everybody involved, just my last name is pronounced Barrett.
Barrett.
Just so everybody is aware, it's Barrett.
Oh, my apologies, Scott.
All good.
I like that even better, Barrett.
Scott, you're not related to Justin Barrett, the attorney, are you?
No, I'm not. I've tried to figure out where that is, but I'm aware that there's a Justin Barrett nearby.
Okay.
I also have a cousin named Justin Barrett, different one.
All right, just want to make sure.
Yeah, no, not related there.
Apologies, Scott. I've probably been pronouncing it wrong all this time, and now I feel awful. So
No, it's totally okay. I figured we better do this now before, it gets 5-10 years into this, and then it's really awkward.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, Renee. Thank you, Scott Barrett. Are there any questions or comments from the board? All right, hearing none. Are there any questions or comments from the public?
The chat box is, there you go.
Okay. It is open. I'm not seeing any questions or comments. All right, that being said, do I hear a motion to move forward with appointing Scott Barrett to the position of Township Secretary?
So moved.
Motion.
A motion on the floor from Commissioner Mobilio. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Was that Commissioner Seton or Walk?
Seton.
Yes.
Seton.
Well, either one.
Second from Commissioner Seton. Can I have a roll call vote, please, Renee?
Commissioner Walk.
Aye.
Commissioner Mobilio.
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly.
I just have a quick question. Is the township secretary always a township employee?
Yes. Historically, yes.
And that's by our ordinance, or is that a first-class township code provision? I'm just not sure.
It can be first-class township code. Joe Zader, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's code. Secretary can't be a sitting member of the commission. Assistant can.
But it would be a staff member, not a member of the public.
Correct.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. I vote yes.
Now, did I forget if I called Commissioner Seton?
Yes.
Did I call?
I think you did.
Okay. I forget. Commissioner Morgan.
Aye. Motion carries. Scott, thank you. Thank you again for all your hard work. All right. Next this evening, under motions for consideration and possible action, we have a motion to extend the South Whitehall Township's temporary outdoor dining guideline policy to be effective on November 30th, 2020 through November 30th, 2021. George, were you presenting on this one this evening? Is George still with us on the call? George.
Hello? Hello?
Hi, George.
You got me?
Gotcha.
Okay, very good. Good evening, commissioners. You may recall approving these same policy guidelines earlier this year in order to permit outdoor dining in an expedited and cost-free manner, and that was really tied to the ongoing pandemic and to give our restaurateurs the opportunity to do something a little more creative and outside of their hardscape buildings. This policy was intentionally and temporary, and as was mentioned, sunsets on November 30. For your consideration tonight is the same policy with the revised sunset date of November 30, 2021, should you desire to extend this consideration. And I would just add that we used November as the sunset date because we thought it might get a little too cold to be outside, past that time of year. However, some of our restaurants, I think, are using some creative outside opportunities through tents and whatnot. So it, in our opinion, it's probably appropriate to go ahead and grant this extension if you feel the need to do so.
Thanks, George. Absolutely, and anything we can do to kind of help foster business for our businesses here in the township, I think makes the most sense. Certainly, we hope it doesn't need to last this long, but we'll do what we can. But are there any questions or comments from the board on the extension of this outdoor dining guideline policy?
I did have one. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
George,
I just wanted to say that I'm sorry. I just wanted to say that this has been really great to see the restaurants, serving outdoors, but not just this. Clearly, it helps the restaurants, but it also great to dine outdoors versus indoors all the time. So definitely a good thing to do. And I hope it stays for longer than 21.
Yeah, well, to respond to that, Commissioner Seton, I think certainly as a planning staff, we could investigate, the opportunity to do outdoor seating in a more permanent way for sure. This is a way to do it free of charge, expedited to the extent that we literally get their permit out the door in one day. So obviously with a more permanent solution, we might look at something a little more onerous, but not over the top either. So, but I think that's well received, and I think our staff is certainly already looking at those kind of opportunities.
And I think you're right, George. I think it will be a very receptive to the public as well as to the restaurants. Good idea.
I just wanted to echo what Joe and George said, and that's that I work downtown Allentown, and I do not go into restaurants. I'm still very skeptical about COVID measures inside. The only time I will go anywhere to eat is if there's an outside dining area, even in this climate. So I think it's really imperative that restaurants have that option. So as long as you can. Some places are putting a ton of heaters outside, fireplaces. Restaurants will do whatever they have to do to make it work outside, even during the coldest of temperatures. So I think it's important that I'm glad that Joe has pushed this to the forefront to give them that option, because it might be a difference between these businesses staying alive or not.
Absolutely. And my comment in saying I hope this doesn't go into 2021. It's not this policy, it's COVID. That's what I'm hoping doesn't last all the way to November of 2021. I certainly, this is a wonderful opportunity that would be great to see stay in motion no matter what. Commissioner Kelly, you had a comment?
I did. George, thank you for bringing this back to be revised for the next year. The only question I had, I know that there was language in here about heaters, and certainly during the summer months when this policy was drafted, we were thinking about those stand-up heaters. And I've seen some of the businesses now actually have propane tanks. So I'm just curious, are we as a township going to circle back around to check on the safety of those facilities, since they've probably changed because the weather has changed? A lot of these tents are now closed on all four sides, as opposed to maybe having a side open as they did in the summer.
Yeah, good question, Commissioner Kelly. Absolutely. So two of the main tenets of the policy, even though it's a quick turnaround and it's expedited, as we mentioned, the fire marshal is involved in both the initial review and has the ability to basically pop in during the course of the outdoor seating environment to occasionally inspect to make sure that it is safe from a emergency services perspective. So they have the freedom to do that basically at any time.
Excellent. Very good. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board on this particular motion to move forward with extending out? All right, any questions from the public? Mr. Hodges, I'm trying my best to keep up with the chat box here.
Yes, thank you very much. I don't know if this list here has all of the requirements. What I've seen driving around at some of these outdoor seating areas at some restaurants is that they have these heavy plastic walls, I guess, for lack of any other term, that they put up. And it makes it, basically still an indoor area, even though it seems to be outdoors with these heavy plastic drapes. It's still enclosed, and I don't know if there's been any consideration of that they have to have great ventilation if they do something like that, because when they have those heavy plastic drapes, it's basically still an enclosed area, just as if it was indoors. And I don't know if this has been taken into consideration. Thank you.
If it's a COVID related concern, that's going to come from the Commonwealth, from the governor. My understanding is there are no regulations as far as how much ventilation needs to be utilized for an outdoor space. But if there was, it would come from the governor, not something that we could enact just as a municipality. And there's nothing that I know of, and I think this is accurate from my research, because I have looked into this. There's nothing in any of the governor's orders or declarations or the Secretary of Health that suggests there are any kind of special concerns for air circulation for outdoor dining. So it might, and there might be, it might be a CDC concern, but it's just not something that's law right now that we can use to apply to South Whitehall.
Okay, I understand, but I think you get what I'm saying when you see these restaurants with these.
Yeah.
It's just like having a wall, four walls.
Yeah, you'll see that most of them. I don't know what South Whitehall restaurants have been doing typically, but you'll see some of them. Like I know that the Shelby over off of Hamilton, they've got like their outside area looks like it's bigger than a restaurant, and they just have a couple of open sides, and I don't even know that they're open all the time. They might just kind of flap closed when you walk in, and it's quite frankly kind of a loophole where if it exists outside, it's somehow not an indoor facility, which I agree with you is kind of strange. But
the Shelby is exactly what I was thinking about when I was talking about the places I've seen. It's exactly the restaurant.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things where it's kind of intentionally lax and loose because they want people to figure out a way to make money while this is going on. And it may change in the future, but as I'm aware, and George, correct me if I'm wrong, if you know, or Joe Zader, I don't think there's any regulations as far as how much opening there has to be for an outdoor dining facility right now.
Okay, thank you.
That's my understanding as well, Commissioner Mobilio.
Yeah, I agree, Matt. And I think, the one advantage to having the fire marshal available to look at these things kind of prior and during is, there may be something there that they would be looking at if you're using, for instance, indoor heaters or fireplaces or whatever, that there might be some ventilation requirements as part of that. But other than that, I think you're spot on.
Yeah. And all of those stand-up heaters do run on propane, as Commissioner Kelly was stating. I mean, it looks like, it might run on electric, but those are little propane tanks inside of each one of them. In fact, I bought one for my backyard. So yeah, all of those things are generating gas. So it's definitely something for our fire marshal to keep an eye on, because what you don't want is, like what Rob said, is to have all your walls closed and then propane not being able to ventilate out. So even beside COVID, you want to just be careful that if they're using those things inside tents, which I'm pretty certain the recommendations are not to ever use it inside of any closed facility. But yeah, definitely something to keep an eye on for sure.
Very good. Thank you. All right. Mr. Mabry, I think, had a question. Carl.
It's been discussed. Thank you.
Oh, very good. Very good. Any other questions or comments related to the outdoor dining policy? All right. That being said, do I hear a motion from the board to extend the temporary outdoor dining guideline policy to be effective November 30th, 2020 through November 30th, 2021?
So moved.
We have a motion on the floor from Commissioner Kelly. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I'll make a second. Second from Commissioner Morgan. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Walk,
Aye.
Commissioner Mobilio,
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
Commissioner Seton,
Aye.
and Commissioner Morgan.
Aye, motion carries. Thanks, George. All right, next we have no items scheduled under correspondence and information items, but I will make a note, 2 things. Actually, it could go under anything, but I'll bring them up here. I just want to reference, as I said I would, we still have some vacancies. We have 2 alternate vacancies on our Civil Service Board, and we have 1 alternate vacancy on our Zoning Hearing Board. Again, as we talked about, the applications are available. If you're interested, please put in your application information. And I also wanted to report out to the rest of the board and the public that's present this evening. I did sit in on our GAC, Green Advisory Committee meeting in November, and wanted to report out a little bit of what that group's working on. They are going to be putting on hold, just for the time being, due to COVID, the single-use plastics, and looking at different ways to bring that back in front of the board at a later date once COVID has lifted. It's not off the table, certainly well in the works, but they're being cognizant of the issues that restaurants are facing right now, and we'll come back to that in the future. They're working on the information packets for recycling, and also putting on the website interesting GAC facts, which would be different facts that are going to come from each subcommittee on the group, which would include recycling, single-use plastics, stormwater, and environmental communications. So a lot of work still being done by the GAC group, and they're moving forward. And certainly as things start to get to the point where they're looking to push things out to the public, it will come back to the full board first, just for their information and knowledge. And certainly if there's a financial impact, it would come back to the full board for a vote. So great work being done by GAC, and I'll continue to feed back to the board and the public on anything else that's coming out of that group. Frank Petrocelli runs an amazing meeting, and that group is really full of exciting new things for 2021. So that's it from me. Thank you. Anybody else have anything for correspondence and information items?
I do have one matter to bring for consideration to the board regarding the Woodlawn Fire Company. I noticed that there was an invoice in our packet today for down payment on some work that we had approved as a board. Going back to September, we approved a carport for the fire station, and then a couple weeks later, we approved an alarm and security system. And I was just curious, procedurally, why we haven't released the funds to the fire company in full so that they can move forward with this project.
Renee, do you have any feedback for that? I know there was an issue, I believe, with one of those with the pricing, but I'll defer.
I'm not quite sure on the timing of the payment. I would have to defer to Scott. I believe he's been working on that. Scott?
Scott, are you with us?
I don't hear Scott. We'll have to get back to you on, again, I'm not quite sure what the requirements were for the release of the funds, and if they've submitted, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, probably the best thing, Diane, is to let Renee and Scott and probably Fire Chief Commissioner Kicharavich kind of look into this to find out what's the status on that, and feed back to the full board the answer on it to get you the information you're looking for.
Well, and as a continuation of that same project, I've been made aware that the project is stalled because of a permit needed and a survey being done. And I guess I just had a question as a commissioner. I know that we have at least before I was a commissioner, attending a board meeting, I know that the land development process, the renovation on the building was waived because it's township property, and I believe we also waived the library. So when a fire company that protects our township assets, our fire trucks, is going to do some type of work, is there a waiver that we can give them so they don't have to go through the time and additional expense to have a survey to put up a carport?
No, that is not a possibility. We do not own that land. That exemption exists for township property. It does not exist for the fire companies. And we can't waive any zoning issues.
So because we don't own the building?
Correct. It's not, the fire company owns that property, and they are working on zoning is my understanding, and we can't waive any zoning requirements.
So I know I don't know a lot about the library, but we don't own that either. So, or
yes,
do we?
We do own the library. Yes.
So we own the library. They lease it from us. Is that correct?
Yes.
They lease it. We own it.
Okay. So, but the renovation being done to the library is being done with their funds, not township monies.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you for that. So, so they are not allowed to have any type of waiver from the township.
Not for a zoning requirement. It's a zoning requirement that they are going through. We cannot waive zoning for anybody.
Okay, so carport.
Our own is, right, correct. They are actively working with our community development department on the issues that they need to iron out because they are a separate entity.
Right. I know that there's an issue just because of time sensitivity as the weather's turning colder. There's cement that needs to be poured for the footers for the carport. So I'm just wondering if that's something that is a timely process or.
Again, our staff has been actively working with them. I don't know the day-to-day of what they do each day in the process, but our staff is actively working with them.
Okay. And just to piggyback on that, I wanted to just bring up the topic that we spoke about in the budget workshop regarding the COVID grant that we received. And I was just curious, I know you sent a worksheet to us for some of the proposed expenditures for it, but my question was, since it's income that the township didn't expect and it comes in, so it's a question of process for me, does that come in through the board to approve those expenditures? Since it wasn't a budgeted item, how does that work?
When we apply for a grant, does it come to the board for approval to spend the money? Typically, if it's a capital expense, this grant is very specific to COVID expenses that we incurred as a result of COVID. And so those are all expenses we've incurred as a result of COVID.
Okay, but I guess that was my question, because we did receive a little bit over 326,000. I'm just curious as a board if we wanted to have a discussion about potentially sharing that with some of our departments to prepare them for the winter, whether it's more uniforms or whatever other supplies they need to get them through these next few months to help them with their budgets as well.
But Renee, from what I understand, that money is already basically accounted for.
Correct. That money's accounted for.
So, and that's the information, Diane, that Renee sent out to the full board today.
Right. I looked at it briefly and I saw that part of it was for rent for the Roma building. And I just wondered if there was a way that, we looked at particular needs of COVID as opposed to rent, to maybe we could use that to help relieve some of the agencies that have had extended costs because of COVID and continue to have them.
Well, all the it's all relative. It's all going to operational COVID related costs. So if those were all approved particular expenditures for the COVID grant, that's why Renee sent that very detailed list of all the things that were COVID related that the money was going towards. So if it went to anything else, it's still a COVID related expense. What's the difference?
I was asking
Are
if
you
we were any of the fire companies, the ambulance corps, with their, additional cost to COVID.
Well,
I was just asking the question.
I think the money that was, when we put the grant information in, from what I understand, it was all relative to operational costs for the Township Direct, relative to whether it be to computers, salaries, rent, PPE, different things like that. I think those were all the things that were listed. That's where all that money is being accounted for, from operational costs related to COVID.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And was there anything else under correspondence and information items? Anybody want to share? All right. Then we have direction and discussion. I don't have anything extra under that, unless there was something from the board. And old business, Renee, I'll let you touch on any of these. I believe there's much of a status, but I'll let you run through those.
Again, Where's Dam continues in permitting process. Have not heard back from them. The campus renovation project, we talked about at length with Tony Ganguzza from Boyle Construction last month, and the second meeting is our meeting to give that update again, so we will do that then. And credit card status, again, as we've had transition in staff here, we are actively working, and again, hope to have our solutions rolled out at the beginning of January, along with our website, which again is coming along nicely, and again on target, looking to roll out in the beginning of January, which we will also see our new. We will no longer use board docs at that point either. We will roll to, it's called Peak Agenda, which will also be a live stream of the meetings. So, well, as long as we're on GoToMeeting, it's still a little similar to utilizing GoTo. But again, once we are able to return to in-person meetings, that live stream will occur.
All right, thank you, Renee. Any questions or comments for Renee on any of the old business items from the board? Any from the public?
Carl Mabry, just to clarify, did you say the live streaming will continue after in-person meetings resume?
Correct. Yes, it will look a bit different. It will be literally a video camera rolling into the room versus it's still going to be recorded on GoToMeeting while we're virtual. But as soon as we get back in person in the building, it will be a live stream of it. So, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right. Okay. That being said, we'll move to our next agenda item. This is the opportunity for courtesy of the floor. I know we did have a request for courtesy of the floor already from Mr. Schacht and the team, his team. Renee, did you guys have anybody else? I don't know what the order is.
Chat
Hi,
is
Eric.
not open. Hello. If you can open the chat.
All right.
Thank you.
We'll get the chat open. We're going to shut the chat down though during the presentations of the particular people for courtesy of the floor, and then we'll reopen it again for anybody else who wants courtesy of the floor. So excellent. All right, Eric, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Eric Schock from Fitzpatrick, Lentz and Buba. And I represent Lanston Equities, which owns property at the corner of Chapman's Road and Route 309. It's 4 acres. and we did appear before the Planning Commission on a sketch plan for the proposed development of that property. The issue we're here this evening on is a fairly finite one. Part of the proposal is what under your ordinance is a motor vehicle service station. And there is a requirement under the ordinance that pertains to a separation distance. And there are not many anymore, but a few zoning ordinances that, if I can just give a little history, that retain a vestige of what was originally, back in the early 1900s, the Flammable Materials Ordinance. And what that did was, back in the early 1900s, they were concerned with gasoline stations being too close to each other because there was a flammable liquid stored there. Zoning ordinances picked that up as they came out in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, and there are a few that still retain those. However, I would suggest to you that I think common sense would tell us nowadays that a gasoline service facility not being allowed to be located within 1,500 feet of another gasoline service facility is not a safety concern. The advances in the technology is tremendous. Any gasoline service station owner who provides it will tell you how heavily regulated they are. And I don't even think that is a consideration in development anymore. That being said, for that component of this project to move forward, we were looking to get some feedback from the commissioners as to whether there would be a consideration for looking at whether that separation distance could be eliminated. I'm not aware of other separation distances for any particular reason that are synonymous with this. I mean, I know, you know, people may say there are often separation distances for adult bookstores or for other types of what some people may call, more of a nuisance use. You drive anywhere, and it's fairly common that on commercial intersections, there often can be two gasoline stations, two convenience stores, and they are intended to be kept together in commercial districts such as this. It's a very, very good location. It is a lot that has been underutilized. It had been used in the past for commercial use. It's essentially been vacant. It's a prime location for providing this service to the citizens. And what we would ask is that we get some feedback, because I think all of you can appreciate we're not here to talk about whether our driveway should be moved. There are other bodies that will talk to us about all of the planning issues. But ultimately, something like this kind of restriction is a commissioner's issue, because it's a zoning ordinance provision. And before the developer spends significant dollars to see whether this works, it's black and white. We admittedly are within that distance restriction from another institution that sells gasoline, and for these for the convenience store, the Wawa, to be there, that restriction couldn't remain in place. So we were hoping to get some feedback, and then if it was positive, which we are hopeful that it will be, we will then continue with the appropriate steps to advance this plan forward. I'm glad to answer any questions. I can keep talking because that's what I do, but I think that fairly sums up the reason why we are here at courtesy of the floor.
Thank you, Eric. I'll open it up for comments. Commissioner Seton.
I was just going to ask, is the zoning restriction that you're talking about, is it for gas stations only, or is it also for motor service?
It's under the motor vehicle service station portion of the ordinance, but it applies only to the provision of gasoline. So it doesn't apply to convenience stores. It doesn't, it just applies to the provision of gasoline, but it is under, we would be regulated under the section that is a motor vehicle service station. And one of those criteria is gasoline service. The provision of gasoline to the public needs to be separated by 1,500 feet.
Eric, how did they get around? I mean, there's two gas stations right on Cedar Crest and Tillman Street.
Yes.
Were they grandfathered? How did that work out?
I believe those are grandfathered. I checked with Mr. Adams because there's actually, Mr. Mobility, there's two places in the township. There's an even closer one, or just as close, over by the highway at 19th Street. I believe those two that just make it into the, they're right on the edge of the town. Those are just as close as the two that are across from the Target and then at the top of the hill at the intersection. I believe, to the best of my knowledge, from talking to Mr. Adams, that those have just existed.
Got it.
And I'm not sure how they came about to be, because I think this restriction has been around for a while, but I'm not aware of it. He did look at that, and if he's on, he could. But I recall asking him that, and we're not positive, but there are two that are within 1,500.
Well, that one over at the intersection of Cedar Crest and 22 there, that Weiss Gas and Go, that's changed hands multiple times. I think it's been there forever. So
right.
I think they all have been there for a very long period of time. So
yeah, and for all I know, the restriction for years ago started out as under the flammable ordinance. Maybe that was 1,000, and they just made 1,000. I just don't know the history that far back. But I will submit to you that I'm not aware that anyone ever says, oh my gosh, it's a disaster on Cedar Crest, or it's a disaster on 19th Street. How can they be within 1,500 feet? It's not an issue. It happens all the time. And as you probably, I mean, every time you get off a highway, you typically have a gas station across the street from another gas station. Let's face it.
Well, and actually where the AutoZone, that used to be a gas station too. So that one was even, the AutoZone there off of 309 in Tillman was a gas station. And then there's I think a mobile station down there on, was it Tillman?
Parkway and Tillman. Yeah.
Right. I remember being on the planning board, and the owner of that, where the AutoZone is, came to us to ask for an extension of their permit or whatever it was, because they didn't want to, if it expired, they would fall under that new ordinance and wouldn't be able to sell gas there. So all right. Okay. Yeah, I see.
Yeah. And in all candor, I just don't I mean, if someone gives me a reason why, a cogent explanation as to why it's important to keep them 1,500 feet, I will try to respond. But I'm just struggling because, I mean, there doesn't seem to be any, I mean, you could have propane establishments lined up down the street and someone could say, oh my gosh, it's but that's not restricted. You could have actual gasoline distribution facilities that don't sell to the public, theoretically. So I don't think anyone would submit that today, under today's restrictions and today's technology, that someone is fearful that there's gasoline within 1,500 feet of another one. And when you think about it, if you had two of them, if you had one that each had one tank, or you had a larger facility that had two of the same size together, that's not regulated, right? I mean, I'm just searching for why it's important, because I don't think it is, which is why we thought it was appropriate to say, hey, let's think about this.
Well, I'm sure the owner of the mobile station across the street will come up with plenty of reasons why it is not.
And zoning is not intended to regulate competition, as we all know. So I probably said that on the zoning board when you sat there, or one of your predecessors. It is not intended to regulate competition. Zoning is for the public health, safety, and welfare. And I'm searching for the reason how this protects the public health, safety, and welfare. Separate and apart from, someone may say there are other planning issues. You've got to look at the intersection. We get that, and those are public health, safety, and welfare. The 1,500 foot restriction, though, I kind of go, huh?
I have a few questions.
Sure.
So I guess for Mr. Schock or anyone else with any knowledge, so aside from South Whitehall Township zoning, are there any other governing bodies or agencies that have rules and regulations around this subject?
They are regulated. Can I ask Mr. Spiegel from Wawa. Can you just say who regulates you with respect to provision of gasoline and the design of your facilities? He would know better than I. Mike, are you on?
Be mute. Oh. There he is.
Yeah, thanks. If you could introduce yourself, and then I think you're the one who should answer this question.
Oh, I can't hear him. Try again.
We can't hear you, Mike.
Yeah.
It looks like his mic's unlocked.
It does look like his mic is on, but we can't hear you, Mike.
Those fancy AirPods, you know, switch to just a regular microphone.
Oh, he's on his phone. Yeah. Is he on it? Oh, he might be. If he's talking off his phone, he could be muted from another. We don't know what caller he is.
Oh,
Hey, Mike, do you know what caller you are by chance? I'm caller 14. 1-4.
There he is.
Oh, we can hear you.
There you
We
go.
got you.
Yep. All right, great. Thank you, guys. I apologize for that. Modern technology, right? So hopefully you hear me clearly now. So Mike Spiegel, real estate project engineer for Wawa. I'm actually a Wawa employee. Yeah, so your question, Eric, was about who regulates us.
Yes.
The state does. It's labor and industry. So we have to go through all of their regulations, all of their requirements. We have to make sure all of our stores abide by them, be inspected and up to date on all of our inspections. So they're the governing body in Pennsylvania.
Okay, so now a similar question. Basically the same question, but for non-governing bodies. Are there any non-governing bodies, you know, industry associations, industry trade associations that have, you know, probably not rules and regulations, but that have a body of knowledge around this? You know, like we're familiar with the ones, the National Highway Association, and, you know, they publish information about all their standards. So is there anything as a trade association associated with this subject, you know, gasoline storage?
Yeah, we do, and we are abiding by. Yeah, there are some associations. I don't have all of them by name here, but there are ones. Like for instance, when we're obviously installing our service station, the underground storage tanks, the gas pumps. You know, we're regulated by, say, for instance, OSHA, and when we install them. When we operate, you know, we have certain. There are certain industry standards that we go by. There are certain regulatory issues, some of our agencies, some of them that are not really, I would consider official. I mean, we are part of some of them, but I mean, to be honest with you, a lot of the main regulation is really the state. I mean, that's where it comes down to. You know, that's the governing body. That's where all the inspections come from. That's where all the regulations come from. You know, some of these agencies, as I would call them, don't necessarily have the authority, I would say, to regulate. They recommend, but may not regulate.
Okay, so by the way, I don't have that many more questions. So just along the same lines, in industry, like in the chemical, oil and gas industry, an agency that applies is the NFPA, or National Fire Protection Association. I have no idea if it applies to something like this, you know, from a commercial standpoint. Are you aware of that at all, or no?
There are. I don't have the names. I don't have the names in front of me. There are agencies out there. There are, and they regulate all sorts of things. Our transportation of our fuel, from where we get it from our storage facilities in Wilmington, to, you know, the tanks in the ground at the sites. We have regulations on, you know, within our store and how we monitor our tanks, you know, for leaks and so on and so forth. But like I said, there are some. If you want, I could always provide or get some of those. I mean, there's a list of them. I can get those for you.
Yeah. Well, that would be worthwhile because my general thought, I ask these questions. My general thought is, like to be open-minded, despite the fact that there's a zoning ordinance. Would like to, understand if there's any other information out there that may be pertinent. So if you could provide that may be worthwhile. So,
yeah, absolutely. Glad to provide it. There are, for example, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, or Jeff Bevan, the engineer, can mention it. There are some separation distances that you need to maintain, and those are all maintained on your lot and comply with the law. You put this tank in close proximity to certain things, and that is regulated, but it's always able to be contained on your lot, correct?
Correct, yes.
And we can get that information for you because there are some, but they are nowhere near 1,500 feet because an operator sites the tank on his own property to comply with those regulations. And if he couldn't do it on his own property, he wouldn't be able to do it.
Okay. And so the last question, so it's a little different, maybe more general. So Mr. Schock, you mentioned a few times, does this standard apply now that we have today's technology? Do you have anything in mind regarding what today's technology is that would make this more safe than existed when, these rules and regulations were originally made?
Yeah, just the knowledge that that these are regulated by the state, and you can legally, to my knowledge, build a gasoline service facility on adjacent properties. Am I correct? You have other places where you are certainly within 1,500 feet of another gas station, and there's not a problem complying with those regulations.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions from the board?
I just wanted to see if I'm clear. Is there any state industry regulations about the distance between one gas station to another that you're aware of?
Not that we're aware of. And I don't think they are, correct, Mike? I mean, it's not the gasoline station itself. You've got certain siting requirements with respect to the tank on your own property, correct?
No, I understand that, but I was talking, Thank you.
Okay. So basically this evening, Eric, if I'm understanding you correctly, you're just looking for any feedback or guidance from this board regarding this particular challenge that goes along with this this project. And from what I can tell is what we're talking about is the ordinance that is in place regarding the fueling station. I'm not sure if that revolves around a zoning ordinance change, or if it's a simple text amendment, or if that's part of the zoning ordinance change. But it certainly sounds, this is just me talking, I'm one commissioner, but it certainly sounds to me like it's a worthwhile thing to look into, because you're talking about a very, very old ordinance that might not be pertinent to the operations and the functions that are happening today, and the fact that we have a variety of other situations within the township which already are doing exactly what you're saying. So, correct. Certainly tonight, at courtesy of the floor, we're not in a position to give approvals or vote or anything like that. But from my opinion, I certainly think it makes sense to continue the process, to look into what needs to be done, either a text amendment or a zoning change. Do the research on that. I would support following the process through to see what happens. But I'll defer to the rest of the board if they have any other questions or comments.
I will agree with Commissioner Morgan. I think it's worth looking at curiously, just a curious curiosity, how many pumps is that station going to be? You know,
Yeah,
just a rough idea.
I can look at the
10,
plans.
12
You know off the top of your head, Mike?
It's 6. It's a straight 6.
pumps, is that it?
It's 6, so
Yep.
that would be
Well,
12
it's-
fueling positions, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so to answer Commissioner Morgan's question, yeah, we believe it would require a text amendment. We're getting exactly what we hope to get this evening, that kind of feedback. And I think the other thing we would certainly do is we can put together a little bit of an informational sheet on the safety questions to make sure that look, it's my general knowledge. I'm not going to profess to, I am a lawyer and it stops there, but I'm just going based upon what I know. But I certainly believe in talking to Wawa and looking at this, we can put together some information that, in our opinion, would confirm that it doesn't seem to be, the same issue that they had years ago. And obviously it's my speculation that's where this stemmed from, but I researched it, and these are hanging around based on that, and it doesn't seem to be as needed anymore.
Commissioner Walk or Kelly or Mobilio, thoughts?
My thoughts stem from my, earlier questions. I would agree it's worth looking into. I would appreciate, the gentleman said they're aware of certain standards. If they could, it should be easy enough to provide a list, not the standards, but the list.
Sure. We'd be glad to put that together.
Commissioner Kelly?
And I would concur. I certainly don't have enough information to make a judgment. I have a lot of questions. I would certainly want to look at the history and relevance of why this ordinance was there in the first place and it's relevant today. Absolutely.
Yeah, understood. I'm making my case and making some supposition, but due diligence is understood.
Commissioner Mobilio, you thoughts?
Yeah, my only comment is, and I tell this to everybody who comes in, that during courtesy of the floor, go through the process. We can't make any decisions today. Obviously, I'm as big a fan of Wawa as anyone. I'm happy it's going to be a Wawa, potentially not a Sheetz. So I'm all right with that. But with that being said, again, go through the process. I don't see anything that jumps out at me that says this is a no-go. But we'll see you back here at some point. We'll have all the information at that point. So.
Yep. Understood. That's all.
Thank you, Eric.
Hey, thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Let's see who's next on courtesy of the floor. We have Brian Height.
Good evening, Commissioners. Brian Height, 1273 Eck Road, South Whitehall. Last meeting, I had mentioned to the Board of Commissioners that I was hopeful of a meeting between the site contractor, construction manager of the 3 warehouses under construction at Eck and Crackersport Roads. And I was hoping that I would never have to comment again to your board here. That meeting occurred on Friday the 20th at 2:30, and even South Whitehall Township showed up, and I appreciate that Mike Elias and Tom Harper were in attendance. However, by 9:30 that evening, any agreements, understanding with regards to ordinances, expectations, or communication went out the window with the actions of the contractors. And in fact, things have gotten worse over the past 2 weeks. I could ramble on, but let's say Thanksgiving Day heavy construction is just rude and violates the noise control ordinance, and it was put to an immediate stop by South Whitehall Police. Apparently, this is a situation where no one can get relief for the health, safety, and welfare of my family and myself by getting a contractor to be respectful and to be conscious of their actions during construction, rather than just doing whatever they want, when they want, after the sun goes down or on holidays, especially after 9 months I've been living with this. but I thought the township should be aware of the blatant disrespect that these contractors have for the citizens and overall community of South Whitehall. I must say Public Works has done everything in their power to help mitigate the impacts to my property, and for that I am thankful. But there's only so much that the Public Works can do as far as the actions of road contractors. I thank you for this opportunity to say this to you, and I will end with one number: $18,463.79. That is the out-of-pocket cost and damages to my property to date by these contractors. So thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Renee, I'm going to just defer to you to make sure that we continue to follow up with Brian. Are there? I believe there's some actions in place. I'm not sure what's available for discussion at this point, but.
Yeah, yes, we're aware of them, and Brian, I know that they are actively working on them, and Tom Harper is who our enforcement program manager is actively working with the contractor. So yes, we are, and I think Brian can attest that we are following up on everything that Brian has sent us and actively working with them.
Yes, this township has been great. It's just you have a road contractor that likes to play games after hours and on holidays and weekends, and so it's an ongoing battle. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. The road is being built, so hopefully in 6 months they're gone and I'll never have to say this again. So hopefully. Thank you.
Brian, thank you for keeping us, in the loop on what's happening, and certainly, as Renee had said, we're going to do everything we can to assist with this, and try and bring some relief to you within the capacity that we can, certainly. So thank you for sharing and keeping us in the loop.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Salt.
Good evening, Commissioner Morgan. How are you?
I'm good, Lee. How are you?
Good. Thank you very much. Thank you for the time. First of all, I'd like to congratulate all of the appointees for the positions they filled tonight. Their dedication, volunteerism for our township is great. I'd like to also thank the commissioners for the interviews, and also Commissioner Morgan and Commissioner Mobilio for doing the same thing. I ask one thing. I ask that for myself and for the other people that were not accepted into position for the township this time, that we would have been informed ahead of time, just out of courtesy, that we would not accepted for the position that was applied for. That's all that I have, and I thank you very much for your time.
Lee, thank you so much. And first of all, it was a pleasure to interview you. And just for some clarity, we had the same question from another applicant. We wouldn't have been in a position to give any of the other applicants any notification to say they weren't accepted, because it was just a recommendation. We have every intention, now that an appointment has been made, to send out notices to everybody that wasn't picked in this round. You will get a notification, but we couldn't send those ahead of time because we can't assume that the appointment was going to be accepted. So that would have been premature on our part. So hopefully you understand that part of the process. We didn't intentionally not let any of the applicants know they weren't chosen, because the final decision hadn't been made until tonight when we voted. So now that we voted, we will send out notifications to everybody that wasn't chosen this round. The applications will remain on file if you so choose to keep them on file. And as vacancies come around again, you will continue to be considered for that position. And I thank you again for your interest, and I hope you're still interested for future opportunities as well.
And Lee, just to jump off on that, I agree. I mean, certainly that's the reason why no one was notified, but I think in hindsight, a better way to do this would have been if we would have told the applicants that were not being recommended that while they weren't being recommended, if the recommended person was not voted on, that they would still be considered and that they would be considered for future positions. It's kind of a weird area because, you know, you hope that your recommendation is going to be approved, but you don't know. And so but then of course there's folks like you who, you know, unfortunately get the news kind of through the agenda as opposed to, you know, after the fact when a decision's made and then you feel like you've been slighted and really it was not in any way intentional. But I do think maybe in the future it would make more sense to just let those applicants know, you know, you haven't been selected for recommendation on this occasion, but if the recommendation is not approved, you will be considered again, and if it is approved, you'll still be considered for future roles. So I agree with you, and I'm glad that you brought it to our attention that we should probably handle it a better way next time.
Yeah, I think that would have been the great way to handle it, and I appreciate that, Commissioner Mobilio.
Yeah, I like that idea too. I think that's a nice way to handle it. It really was a tricky situation, and please know, Lee, and I know, like I had mentioned, we had another individual ask the same question. It was not intentional to not notify all the applicants, but it would have been premature for us to say, oh, you weren't considered because the vote hadn't happened yet. But I do like that. I do like that option, Matt. That makes sense, and we can certainly work with some of the other recommendations that were made as well as far as the process goes to work that into the process moving forward. So thanks again, Lee.
Great, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, Mr. Mabry.
Hello, board. Thank you again for the time. I just had a simple question. I'm fairly new to these processes with local government and how everything operates. And I was just wanting to know, is there a charter, bylaw, or constitution that explains your responsibilities as a board and the processes which you continually refer to in almost every discussion? If so, where could I find those?
Sure, Carl. It's the First Class Township Code. You can Google it. That's probably the easiest way to get to it. But if you can't find it, again, just call the township office or shoot us an email. Renee or Tracy can certainly lead you in the right direction to get you the First Class Township Code as well.
What was that, E360, right?
Or are you, I apologize, Carl. If you're referring to the ordinances, our ordinances here in the township, I thought you were talking about for the Board of Commissioners. If you're talking about South Township ordinances, that's E360.
No, I'm looking for the Board of Commissioners and your responsibilities and things like
that. Right, and that would be included in the First Class Township Code.
Thank you very much.
You got it. Thank you for your interest. Mr. Hodges.
Hello again. I would just like to present to the board how tonight's meeting may appear to some people, people in the community who will be watching this meeting and what occurred here tonight. And again, this is just how it might appear to that people, if you're wondering why people in the community might think that the board is not really listening to their concerns, tonight might be a perfect example. A previous commissioner in the previous election did not make it through the primaries. The people voted not to renew his position. As in part, part of the reason that they voted, I'm assuming, I guess I shouldn't make this assumption, but probably because they did not like the Ridge Farm development and what was happening with development in the community. As one of his last official acts as commissioner, he voted for Ridge Farm, and then he voted to appoint a self-proclaimed supporter of Ridge Farm for the next commissioner's position. Now here tonight, that person being considered for an important position that will affect future development, that same commissioner who was appointed in part by that vote voted for him again, and another commissioner who self-proclaimed tonight had been recommended by that person for a zoning board position also voted for him. So what it appears to be is that one person scratches your back, I'll scratch your back, It goes back and forth. It's recycling of the same people, and the people out in the community are looking at this saying, this is not what we voted for. We made it clear in our votes what we wanted. And yet here people are just putting themselves back in the same positions where they can, well, basically do whatever they want and not listen to the community. So I'm just letting you be aware of how tonight might look to the community. And in case you're confused as to why the public may not be supporting some of the things that you're doing, this could be one example why. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hodges. All right. Were there any other questions or comments for courtesy of the floor this evening? All right. If there are none, I'd like to make a note that invoices and purchasing requisitions have been reviewed by the township manager and the director of finance. We do need a motion this evening to authorize that our checks be issued to pay our bills as tabulated. Do I hear said motion?
So moved.
We have a motion on the floor from Commissioner Kelly. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I'll make a second from Commissioner Morgan. Can I have a roll call vote, please, Renee?
Commissioner Walk,
Aye.
Commissioner Mobilio,
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
Commissioner Seton,
Aye.
Commissioner Morgan.
Aye, motion carries. We have no executive session planned for this evening, so I do need a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
We have a motion on the floor from Commissioner Kelly. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second.
From Commissioner Mobilio. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Have a lovely evening, everybody. Thank you for your time this evening. Stay safe and